This is the story of how my awful, horrible, mean, weird college roommate created a 3-year-long spiral where I used Sex and the City as my primary coping mechanism. Let's get into it, shall we? This video is sponsored by Your Mama's Butt because Your Mama's Butt's so big that it sponsored this entire video. Why am I telling this story? I'm telling this story for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm still shocked by the fact that this woman exists and made these choices and that I lived with her. I don't feel like I fully processed it. So in a way, this is my way to sort of like process this really toxic situation that I was in. But also I'm telling it because I find it interesting how like you can develop the most random coping mechanisms because of the most weird life experiences. And so yeah, it seems very random that I would have Sex and the City as my primary coping mechanism, but you'll find out why it ended up making perfect sense. So here's my cranberry juice. Let's go to Cosmo, shall we? Oh. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. I hate myself. So yeah, where to start? So this is about my junior year college roommate. So this whole story actually starts my sophomore year. And I'm going to give so much context that's not necessary, but I feel like it is necessary so that you can see how I ended up in this situation because I'm still shocked by it.
Part 1. How I got into this whole mess.
So I went to the University of Michigan for undergrad, and I don't know if this is how a lot of other colleges operate, but at the University of Michigan, you have to start searching for housing basically a year in advance. So if you're looking for housing your junior year, you have to start looking for that housing August your sophomore year. And it's so intense. It's like Mad Max. It's super competitive. It's like really expensive. It's just horrible. And then it ends up like facilitating these like dire situations where you're like moving in with people you don't know because you're just so desperate to have somewhere to live. You're signing yourself into these like double went down to Georgia kind of contracts like that are just like super insane and like impossible to get out of and just like a horrible situation all around. So it's always kind of a scramble at the beginning of your sophomore year to try to figure out, first of all, who you're even living with, because depending on how your freshman year went, you might have friends, you might not have friends, you know what I mean? So like you have to like kind of scramble to figure that out. So I eventually decided that I was going to move in with one of my like still very good friends, one of my like best friends, probably my best friend, and then this other girl that I went to like middle school and high school with, and we were like decent friends at that time too. I still consider her a friend, and she actually didn't go to University of Michigan, but she was going to transfer in her junior year. We finally found an apartment. However, then when it came to looking at the actual contract of the apartment, it was just like a total mess. And the guy also seemed like not super enthusiastic for us to be moving there because he was like, I really only like to have grad students live in my house because, you know, a lot of the other people who live in the house are like, they want like it to be really quiet, and it's like, you have not met these girls. Like, that's not going to be a problem. But yeah, so then we sort of just ended up like pulling out of that contract, and then the girl who was going to transfer in was starting to like maybe second guess her decision to transfer, and maybe wanted to stay longer at her original college, university, which wasn't Ivy, so it was like, yeah, I can't blame you on that one. Yeah, and then, like, I don't know, it was just, like, getting nerve-wracking, and I was just, like, feeling about it. So I think I ended up initiating the fact that we were pulling out, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go maybe see if I could live in a co-op. So if you don't know what co-op is, it's basically like a hippie dorm. It's like a third-party housing. I think it's like a nonprofit association that basically, like, I don't know, creates kind of like affordable cooperative living situations. I don't know. I don't really know how else to describe it. Just like imagine like a small dorm in a house, but like add hippies. That's basically what it is. So I was looking into co-ops to live in. But here's the tricky little thing about co-ops. It's a seniority system to get a single room, and I didn't have seniority, so I would have had to have a double, but I had a boyfriend.
It feels so good to be so young and have this fun and be successful. I'm so successful.
So, yeah, I really wanted a single. So, all of the like co-ops, like that was not going to be an option, except for one that was on like our secondary campus way in the back, and it was like this humongous co-op where everybody could get single rooms. So that was like not a problem, but it was just like really, 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 really far from campus. But in retrospect, that's probably what I should have done, because it was like very affordable. I would have had a single room. Also, like they had a personal chef who like only created organic meals, which would have been really nice. And it was like all grad students, which I think would have just been I think I would have been really happy in an environment where I was just like only hanging out with grad students, because my whole life, my brother was 7 years older than me. So my whole life I've just been trying to hang out with people who are 5 to 10 years older than me, you know? So I decided though that it was like too far away from the main campus, and I was like nervous that was going to feel isolating. So I decided to, instead of moving to the co-ops, I decided to just find a house that girls already had the lease signed for and just see if I could just sort of like find a room in one of these houses, which is what I did. I will also add 2 little points. One point is that as I was making these decisions, I was experiencing one of the worst depressive episodes of my life. And if you are not somebody who suffers from depression, then you might not be able to relate to the fact like you just can't. Like you literally just can't. There's a point where it's just like doing the most mundane things is so freaking exhausting. And so I was just like ready to be done with the whole experience and be like, I just want to have somewhere to live, you know? So that was that. But the real secret of it all is I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is where the University of Michigan is. So literally the worst case scenario would have just been that I moved in with my mom for a year, or my boyfriend who was a townie. So like I wasn't going to be like out, you know, and I wasn't going to be like homeless. So I don't know. I would have all been fine, but I was so nervous. So yeah, I found this ad of these girls who were looking for there were 2 girls who were looking for 3 additional roommates for a 5-person house. And it was like in my price range. It was in a neighborhood that I was like fine living in. So I met with them, and at the time I met with one girl named Stephanie, who I'm calling her out by her name because I love her, and we're still friends to this day. And then also the other girl who was like the problem roommate, who I will name Candace. And yeah, and I think like because Stephanie and I clicked so much and I really liked Stephanie, I think I just like was like, this will be good because Stephanie's in this house. And it didn't occur to me that maybe I should be paying attention to both of them and see how I get along with either of them. And many mistakes were made. That was one of them.
Part 2. Living in this whole mess.
Yeah, so anyways, I'm excited to move in. I move into this place. I didn't see the house before I moved in. All of the bedrooms were assigned, but I could never like lay claim to my bedroom, so I had the like leftover bedroom. So I walk in and I go to my bedroom, and it is quite, I'm not exaggerating, it was quite literally 6 feet by 4 feet. It was big enough for like my bed and like a hamper and like a closet and a single like little vanity table. That was a little bit jarring because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in the small room. But I was like, but it's okay because I have the whole house that I'll be able to stay in all the time with my new friends. No. Yeah, so I move in, and the first weekend, I like get everything packed, I go grocery shopping, all of that stuff. This is me explaining that I went camping the first weekend I moved in. I don't know why I felt like I needed this whole time to say that. I went camping. And I come back from my little camping trip, and there's just like, I had purchased chocolate milk. This is already all over the place, but okay. So I bought some chocolate milk as part of my groceries. And I come back and it's vanilla milk. And I was like, what alchemy is this? How could this be? How did this happen? And, Candace. She's like, oh, hey, by the way, I couldn't help but drink your chocolate milk, but don't worry, I replaced it. Like, okay, first of all, what? No, you can't just like eat someone's food and then just be like, you could help it. You could not eat my food. And then she replaced it with vanilla milk, and that was a red flag because let's face it, you are not normal if you like vanilla milk. I'm sorry. That is the hill I will die on. You have to examine yourself if you like vanilla milk. And if you think it's an acceptable replacement to chocolate milk, vanilla milk is what you drink when you're 5 years old and you're confused about the difference between plain milk and chocolate milk, and you think that plain milk, because it's white, is vanilla milk, so you order that, and lo and behold, you're drinking like the nectar of Satan. That is vanilla milk. So the fact that she thought that was even like a thing that she could pull on me, no, girl. So that was just like, in that moment between looking at my room and the fact that she ate my food and was just like, I realized I made a mistake. And I was just like, I signed this year-long lease and now I have to live with these people for another year. Yeah, and it just went from bad to worse. Like, some notable insane stories. She came home one day and she was mad that we had recycling in a paper grocery bag, and which is something she never communicated as being something that would be wrong to her. So she just came home and she was just like smashing all of the cabinets, and she was just like screaming at the top of her lungs, and she was like yelling like, is anybody home, and was like screaming. And I was like literally in my bed, I like hid under the covers, and I was like, please don't find me. It was so scary. I didn't know what to do. And like, I don't mean to say this because I know that there are lots of instances or circumstances where somebody does not have the ability to control their emotions, or where they have those kind of outbursts, and I would never want to say like that's a problem or like stigmatize that. However, at the same time, I didn't know what I was signing up for, and I was just like, you know? And yeah, and then like another weird instance, like one day I came home and there was just like a rager happening, like just a rager, and she didn't like text anybody, she didn't like talk to anybody about it, she just like had this rager, which was also weird to me because she didn't seem like the kind of person who would have a rager. Like, she wasn't that kind of personality, you know what I mean? She like, all she wanted to do was watch like Gumball on Cartoon Network. So I was just like also very confused. I was just like, these things are not matching for me. What is going on here? So yeah, another choice instance, our rooms were next to each other, so I could hear a lot of things that she was doing. And one afternoon she was just meowing for like hours and hours and hours on end. And I just didn't know what to do. So I was just like, you know what? You do you, girl. I don't want to yuck someone's yum. I don't want to like, this whole video is, I understand me sounding judgy, but I like try not to be like too judgy of a person. And so I was just like, whatever, this is what she's doing. But yeah, so that was like not the weird thing to me. But what was weird happened next is one of our other roommates, we'll call her Mandy, texted our group chat and was like, hey guys, I think we have a cat loose in our house. I'm hearing meowing. To which Candace like goes into the hallway and is just like makes this like big scene of being like this like charade of being like, Mandy, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't hear anything. You must have something going on because I'm not hearing anything. And it's just like, you're meowing in your room. You're meowing in your room and you're lying and making a big deal out of it to say that you're meowing in your room. It's like not that hard. And like, I couldn't say anything because like, first of all, you look crazy by being like, girl, you are meowing in your room for hours. You know what I mean? Like, that makes you look crazy. And then also, the other thing is like, if I said it out loud, then that would have meant that was true, and I was not ready to face that reality. I was not ready to face that reality. Because again, I'm not trying to yuck someone's yum, but it's just like so many things on top of each other. And also like, you can't be, in my mind, you can't be weird and mean, right? Like, I am weird. I fully recognize this. Like, I'm a weird person. But, like, I'm also very nice, and I go out of my way to, like, people please to a neurotic extent. Like, I had to talk to my therapist about it. So, like, though I am weird, I think, generally, it's outweighed by the fact that I will also, like make a little cat embroidery when your friend dies. Like, weird, but also, like, nice, I think. Who's to say? You be the judge. But yeah, she was just also mean. Like, she was mean and weird. And she would, like, just say little, like, things. Like, she would, like, make weird comments about my food. And she would, like, yell at me for watching TV after 9 p.m. Not in, like, like, at a low level. And, like, she would yell at me if, like, I was talking to Matt in my room. She would be like, it's too loud. And it's like, I'm literally not being, I'm existing. I'm not being too loud. And I know I'm not the easiest person to live with, because no person's really easy to live with, but it was just a lot. It was a lot. Ugh. I'm back. I had to take a pause because I'm like, had to sit on I have to like get some pillows to sit on because I was like sitting on my knees and my legs are like, very, very asleep. Yes. So, to that point, so I'm just trying to paint a picture of how just like being around this girl was just like always just stressful. It was just always like kind of like a lot for me to deal with. She would just fly off at any moment. So like whenever she was around, it was like always just like a little bit like nerve-wracking because you didn't know what like was going to happen next. Was she just going to do something like a little bit weird, or was she going to yell at you for nothing, for no reason? So yeah, it was just like just a lot. It was just a lot to deal with. And she was just like always around. And so that was the other frustrating thing, is like you could never just like be in a common space without her, which I know that sounds like maybe stupid or mean or something, but it's just sometimes like if you have a 6 foot by 4 foot room, you sometimes just like want to live in the other parts of your house that you're in, that you're paying equal rent for.
Part 3. Why Sex and the City matters in this whole mess.
So I kind of got fed up with everything by the spring, and I was just like so desensitized to it. So I was just like, I'm going to start trying to not spend all of my time in my room and instead try to like occupy some of these other communal spaces because I deserve to take up space. Gosh darn it. So I started to try to like sometimes watch TV in the like sort of communal area, and she would, no matter what she was doing, she would come down and watch TV with you if you were watching TV, which is like so annoying. And the following year, I lived with like my best friends like I'm still so close to this day. And like if one of us watched TV in that house and like the others came in, it was like so nice and cozy and like, let's watch Jeopardy together. But like with Candace, it was just like, I don't want you in my life. Get out of my face. It was so annoying. So yeah. And then the other weird thing that not weird, but annoying thing that she would do is like, no matter what you were watching, she would just change the channel. So if you were watching like, I don't know, Jeopardy. I'm a big Jeopardy fan. Okay. Come at me. Yeah. She would just like change the channel. And she'd be like, I want to watch Cartoon Network. Let's watch Gumball. And then she would change the channel. So, but I would still try to like assert myself and try to take up space and be like, you know what? I'm allowed to be in this living room. I'm allowed to watch what I want to watch. And so I would just like continue to try to do it. And what I would try to do is I would try to like go to the living room when she was out of the house and then be already watching something when she like came home, hoping that like she would get the hint. I was just like trying to find something that would make me feel like I was safe in my own home. This is not that bad. You know what I mean? It's like annoying enough, and I was safe enough that I could like say these things and be kind of like funny. It wasn't like, never was I like felt like I was truly in danger as much as I was just like, you know. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. Yeah, so one day I was watching like something on E. I guarantee it was like a true crime, like 48 hours show, because those are the best. And I was like doing something at the same time. And then when the show was over, I ran over to Sex and the City. So I left it on and I was like, okay, this is what we're watching. And then she comes home and I was like, okay, here it comes. She's going to come in. She's going to sit on the couch. She's going to pretend to watch this for 5 minutes. And then she's going to change the channel to Gumball. And I was just like gearing myself up for it, taking deep breaths, like this is what's about to happen. And she comes inside and she looks at the TV and she's like, what you watching? And I was like, I think Sex and the City. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she like scurries on upstairs. And I was like, that is odd and out of character, but a one-time thing. A one-time thing I'm grateful for. A one-time moment I'm going to hold on and cherish and thank God for, but a one-time thing. And so the same thing like kind of happened. Like I was watching the true crime show and then it went over to Sex and the City, and then she came home and she's like, oh, Sex and the City again? And I was just like, yep. And she was like, okay, I'll see you later. And then she like scurried upstairs. And I was like, I'm noticing a trend. So then I would try it more and more. And just whenever Sex and the City was on, I would just like watch TV and she would just like stay back. It was like created some force field. She wouldn't go into the living room. She like wouldn't even like look at the screen. She was like incapable of watching Sex and the City. And so, yeah, so every time I watched Sex and the City, she would just like never be around me. So I found this like secret like tool where I could just like occupy space and like just relax on a couch, not in my room, without her. And it was like literally so nice. I felt like probably how people felt like when they discovered that you could put salt around you and like protect yourself from demons. Like I felt the same way. Like, okay, this is how I will keep myself safe forever. Yeah. And so then I created this like very real association of like, if I put on Sex and the City, I'm going to be safe. If I put on Sex and the City, the thing that's going to be causing me anxiety is going to be pushed away. Like in a very literal sense, right? With Candace, like if I was watching Sex and the City, she wouldn't be in my face about whatever. So yeah, it was like truly like, it would bring me like a palpable feeling of like anxiety relief whenever I watch Sex and the City for seriously years to come. But yeah. That's my story. So yeah, very interesting. People would think it's like very funny and random and like they'd be like, that seems out of character for you to like Sex and the City, because also it's like the most problematic show and it's just like a lot of it's just like plot lines have not aged well, in particular like super biphobic one where like Carrie's like, I can't handle that my boyfriend's bisexual. And everyone's like, that's fine. You shouldn't have to. And she's like, okay, good. And then that's supposed to be some like happy resolution and not like the most problematic belief ever. But yeah.
Part 4. Getting the hell out of this whole mess.
I will wrap this whole thing up by just saying that I ended the year, I ended up getting someone to moving in with my mom for over the summer, and I just ended up like literally screaming at her and over text. So not confrontational. But yeah, I was just basically like, you are the worst person I've ever met in my life. I have never had such a toxic situation. I so hope to God that you are living in a single next year so that no one will ever have to spend time with you, so that no one will ever have to live with you, because this has been truly one of the worst experiences of my life, and my dad died of cancer. So I mean it when I say this. I hope that you have no luck in the rest of your endeavors. I was like very mean, but you pushed me to the limit. I'm too much of a people pleaser. I've had too much other trauma in my life that like you don't want to be the person who pushes so hard that like dam breaks down, because you're gonna get a flood of like rage. Yeah, I don't know. Thanks for listening to this story. I hope you found it a little bit interesting. I have so many stories about her. I could go on forever. And ever 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 and ever. I might record another one of like my fun but also weird sophomore year roommate. We'll call him Jeffrey. He was like so strange, but in such a good way. So it goes to show, I don't mind people being weird. That's not the problem. You can't be weird and mean. Jeffrey was weird and nice, so it was fine. And he was a stoner. And stoners and I just like, we get along. It's a good... I don't know what it is, but like my personality jives really well with stoners. I think it's because I'm weird, but it's fine. Yeah, one like is one Cosmo. This isn't a Cosmo. This is just cranberry juice. Da 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 da. Da 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 ba da ba na 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 Manolo Blahnik ba na 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 da da ba na 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 ba 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 big condoms da 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 ra.